got to do better, I got to go work, I got to get money, I got to go twerk, I got to go slide, I got to go side,
the music list is literally called, the playlist is literally called Bumping Sounds. Welcome everyone. Plot yourselves on the map. Where are you joining us from today? Okay, for Jessica, super early. For hey Monica, nice to see you. Thais is here. Meg, Miriam, Benjamin, all right. And we've got Nupur and Harsh quite late for y'all in the evening. Thanks for joining us, Bernardo. Europe is really crowded there, okay. All right. Perfect. Now, I just want to mention that the music, you have control over the music from your individual butter dashboard, the window. So you can play around with the music if it's too loud or you want it up a notch. Bernardo's moving around. Bernardo's like, I don't know where in the world I am now. Okay, thank you very much. And then I'm also curious to know, how do you call yourself in one word? What are you? Are you a learning designer? Those are two words. You're a facilitator, you're a coach. How do you call yourself professionally? I got to be me, but sometimes too much. They don't want me to talk, but they hate when I shut up. I got to go big, I got to add your answer to the left side of the screen and then submit your answer. I got to look good when I'm using my mind. I got to not smoke, I got to not breathe, I got to not run because I gotta look clean. I'm sorry, Said, I said professionally too late. Jacob is calling himself Jacob. That's awesome. Genius. Someone's a genius. I love that. We've got lots of designers, learning designers, facilitators. Someone's an expert here. Beer. Okay, all sorts of things. Facilitators, growth partner, professionals. Someone's a lover, learning experience designer. I see you're identifying the chat as well. To the left side of your screen, you can find the chat. You find the private and shared notes for the session. And you also find the React button. And under the React button, I'm curious to see, give me a, oh, Sophia, I see you want a screen share. I assume you're clicking around. Give me a thumbs up if you know Butter. This is your very first time. It's the first time you ever land in a Butter session. Okay, very few thumbs down, a couple of. All right, we've got a mix. You already found the chat, you found the reaction. Those are the two main things that you are invited to use throughout the session. We'll be using the chat for questions as well. Thank you so much for describing yourself in a word, and we'll kick it off. First, killing the music. Hi everyone, my name is Anna Maria. I am leading the Butter Community Project, and I get to hang out with smart, cool folks every week to talk about facilitation and learning and good workshop design and all that good stuff. And I am very excited to kick off our Learning Lab series. We've got 6 different types of events all around the topic of learning, which is kind of like my sweet spot. I'm a learning experience designer, and I'm very, very excited to have brought some of my absolute heroes when it comes to learning design, and we'll pop the link in the chat so you can explore all the sessions. We've got 2 of them today, and then towards the end of the month. And yes, today we have 2 amazing speakers with us, and I'll introduce them briefly and pop them in the spotlight. So first, let me say hello to Stefan. Hello, Stefan.
Hey, good afternoon, or at least good day.
Or good
How are you
morning or good
doing?
evening. uh, Stefan, for those of you who don't know him yet, he's the head of learning at Growth Tribe, an edtech company specializing in building the most in-demand digital skills and capabilities. Since 2011, his learning team developed scalable learning solutions that have helped more than 15,000 people grow their own skill set and careers in different fields like data, growth, change management, UX, and digital business. Stefan, thanks for accepting my invitation to be with us today. Any other words you'd like to add to your intro that I haven't captured? Feel free.
Maybe a little bit about my background. So I graduated to be a UX designer, and at that time, phones were not so big, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity to make very sexy apps or like fancy designs as we see now with this environment we're in. So I kind of switched my field into advertising and branding, and that's how I ended up working with Growth Tribe eventually. But I still use a lot of UX principles and a lot of the mindset today. And that's also, I think, what makes me so excited to talk to about with Jessica, because that's what they're teaching, I think, as well. So curious to find
Amazing.
some common ground there as well.
Wonderful. Well, if you mentioned Jessica, let me welcome her on the stage as well. Hello.
Hi.
And Jessica is the Career Service Program Manager for Design Lab, an online user experience training bootcamp. She works across teams to ensure that their students accomplish their career goals through learning outcomes and community support. Jessica has a background in creative and technical recruitment, training, development, and product design. Jessica, thanks for waking up super early and be with us at 8 in the morning your time. We appreciate that. Anything you'd like to add to your intro?
Kind of covers it. You got my background in there already. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I am a career changer myself. So thinking about how folks go through that learning journey, especially as like that's their key goal with Design Lab, is hugely important to me. Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I see that in the chat. But yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation about how people learn and how we approach this.
All right. Thank you very much. This is a fireside chat format. That means that obviously I have a long list of questions ready for you guys, but I would very much love it if our audience today will also pop their questions, their curiosities, things they would like to learn from you two in the chat, and we'll surface those questions regularly. So feel free to use the chat for that. I'll pin them and surface them. And we're talking about learning as a journey today. And I guess as facilitators, geniuses, learning designers, we already know that learning is a complex process that happens over time. Usually in a one session, if we're lucky, we get some inspiration, which is what our aim is for today, for the next hour that we're spending together, some food for thought, some insights. But we know that for learning to truly happen, behavior change to happen, we need to design that journey and have a couple of crucial vital elements to that design. But before we deep dive into all of the good stuff related to learning design, I am curious for you guys to give us a bit of a, I don't know, helicopter view, if you like, or bird's view on Growth Tribe and Design Lab learning experience. So what can we learn with you? And maybe more importantly than that, how do we learn with you? Like, how does that process look like? Give us an overview. And I'm passing this to Jessica.
So the what for us right now is predominantly focused on product design, right? So students come to us as career changers, whether that be like a pure career change, right? You have no creative background, nothing even adjacent, or a slight pivot. We get a variety of folks and a variety of ages, in fact, in different learning stages of their lives. But come to us to learn product design, so learning UX skills, research, UI, the things that will set them up to be successful in a junior product design job once they graduate from Design Lab. Our learning process is entirely remote, so our student population is all over the world, including our mentor population, and that's how we focus on our community is having a really solid community. So our students are very engaged. They come to group sessions and things like that, opportunities to present their work. And they also, part of a key structure is having a one-on-one professional design mentor. So somebody who's been vetted and has experience in this field, and ranging, right? And trying to find that perfect match for them. Somebody who either understands what journey that they're looking to accomplish because it's similar as a student, or can challenge them to grow in kind of unique ways. So that's a little bit more about Design Lab.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Stefan, how does that look like at Grow Tribe?
Very nice. Curious. Yeah, just a quick question before I dive in for Jessica. I was curious because you have these bigger reskilling programs or UX programs, but you also mentioned some of the separate skills. So do you also allow people to maybe pick one of those skills to also learn that remotely, or is that?
Yeah, great question. I should have said in my intro, I apologize because it is 8 a.m. I did just get up. So if I miss a beat, I love Stefan coming in for the clutch save. They've been awake longer than I have.
I've been drinking mate here all day.
Yeah. I didn't want to get into coffee because I thought I might put me over the edge after that. Yeah, exactly. So we do have opportunities for students to take little deep dives into each, or I would say mini dives into each of those topics. But actually for us, ours is a longer journey. So students can spend either as full-time students around 9 months in the program, and as part-time student, and that's between, we have a prerequisite course. So part of what Design Lab does is we ensure that students who get into our UX Academy are ready to be there and they understand the structures. They understand how much time they're going to have to commit each week. Roughly, it's a lighter course week, right? And it's called UX Academy Foundations. But that gives them the prep and also the opportunity, because I'm sure many of us can resonate with that, oh yeah, this is the career path for me. And you start to get into it and you're looking on YouTube and you're like, wait, I don't really want to do that. It the unglamorous parts of that job really sound terrible, because there's always at least 20% in every job that just is not your favorite, whatever it might be. So if you can deal with that 20%, because the 80 is wonderful, that's perfect. So for us, our students are in the program from the three programs, because it's UX Academy Foundations, UX Academy, which is the longer, either 3-month full-time, 6-month part-time journey. Then they get access to career services to make sure that they have the skills that they need to transfer everything and prep for interviews and do all that stuff that you do better at if somebody's here's what they're going to ask you in the first interview, and what they're not going to, don't stress about that question. Your first interviewer is not going to ask you that. They don't care yet. So that's more of our journey is the bigger boot camp, where they dig into each of those skills, and the goal is to become a generalist. Now, again, thinking about what their background is, some of our students come out the other side and they're like, I came from graphic design, and where I actually really feel more skilled at is UI. So that's where I'm going to focus my skills at. Or I came from a background that was more education, and I'm better at research. And so that's where I'm going to lean my journey. But they get all of the skills in order to pick from there. We don't make them pick up front. Yeah.
Super
yeah,
nice,
thank
really
you.
Strong set of skills.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Shall I
Stefan.
see if I can also shed some light on the Growth Tribe side? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it's not funny. It's actually interesting because I see shifting from reskilling to upskilling, or having both is also relevant to this time when things are changing in society. You also consider the value of each type of learning journey or program. And at Growth Tribe, we used to have a lot of reskilling programs in different areas. So we had your classic 3-month bootcamp style with coaching for data, growth marketing, and UX. And we actually moved to more of an upskilling model where we look at people who want to use some form of a transferable skill in their job. So they might not be a project manager, but they can benefit from project management skills. And then we take a lot of the most relevant concepts from actual practitioners, and it's also taught by practitioners in an almost fully on-demand way. And then we do that across several different business skills, mostly deriving from the field of growth marketing, growth hacking. That's kind of where we started. And then we took a little bit of data, we took a little bit of digital transformation, and that's kind of how we built it up. And now we're just looking for the most accessible and flexible way to offer that. And that's what we currently have. A lot of different courses that are about 24 hours of notional time that you can follow in a short time frame of, like, you can do it in a week if you want, but you're going to scram your brain with a lot of information, not really a learning journey. Or you can spread it out over time and then follow it flexibly to really gain like some practical skills to apply in your job. So that's kind of what we teach and a little bit of how we teach. And then I think, like, besides the on-demand element, there is this teacher presence or contact moments with a teacher that allow people to also ask their questions or to get a little bit of confirmation of like how they're thinking about the topics and how they're applying it. So combining a bit of the two, but definitely a lot shorter in terms of like how we teach, I would say.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned two words that are getting thrown a lot out there in our field. Guess which ones? Reskilling and upskill. There we go. Yeah. You know exactly what I was talking about, and now I have to pick on that because I was left with a curiosity. Mentioned that, and thank you for explaining, the differences between the two. I'm curious if you, as a head of the department and the person responsible with designing those journeys, do you look at, is there anything that you are doing differently in the process when we talk about an upskilling program and a reskilling program? Does it matter for your design? And if it does, how and when would you look at what?
Yeah, I think, Jessica also mentioned something like mentoring or coaching or even career advice, really with a focus on maybe getting a job or applying to another job or shifting jobs. I think that is a whole set of challenges you're not covering by only going into a topic. And by tying that into the topic you're covering, you can really show like how people can find themselves and shape careers. And I think that's something we currently like don't really do at this point, but I would consider very important if you see people who want to make that shift or really focus on like getting a job at this moment. I'm curious to hear also, Jessica, to see like what kind of nuances you're looking for in
I mean, it's interesting you bring it up too, because like it's certainly something that we're looking at, and actually we're launching a new course here as well. That's more of a, I would call more an upskill, right? Because we have a huge population of alumni out there who are now at different stages in their journey where they're ready to take that next leap into, senior design jobs, senior product management jobs. So for us, a huge part of Design Lab is thinking about how are we creating community and creating opportunities for people to connect and grow organically with each other, right? And not just prescribed by us. Yes, there has to be some sort of medicine, if you will, right? Like, I have a treatment plan for you, but like, here's the new, like, there's gray, right? And so the newer course that we're launching is the data-driven design. And so thinking about how the world is changing and growing. I mean, we all know that UX design even 10 years ago was called something wildly different, and it looked wildly different. And we were doing it in like, oh gosh, just Adobe and all sorts of, we're getting wild with it. So as it shapes and forms, you know, really thinking about what are those two paths. And I think I've been calling it more of like that pivoter and career changer versus upskilling and reskilling, right? But yeah, how are we providing opportunities for these different types of folks? Again, my path comes very specifically from thinking about where is that end goal, the career path? Where are you going to be in something that we spend a lot of hours doing this kind of work that makes you mostly happy? And how do we provide opportunities for people to come to that if it's new? And how do we provide people to continue to feel the spark from something that was providing that maybe 5 years ago? Right? Like something that did feel good, but you know, we all need to grow and learn and challenge ourselves. Otherwise we're going to get stagnant. So I'm not 100% sure if I wrapped around to your initial question, Anne-Marie, and I'm sorry if I took us on a diverting path, but yeah, I think for us, it is really thinking about how are we helping you to continue to feel passion for something that you put a lot of effort into learning, right? And to turning boat towards.
Yeah. Awesome. Usually when I think about learning as a journey, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is some sort of a cohort-based journey where you're spending some time together with the other participants for a set period of time, whether those are a couple of weeks, sometimes they're months. If it's a longer boot camp, can be like three months, 6 months, etc. And I somehow see that experience as very intimate. And we are going to have a couple of sessions that address that cohort-based course where you're probably having, I don't know, maybe like 15 to 20 people, etc. But that is not necessarily how a design lab and growth tribe work. Like you reach hundreds of people, thousands of people, right, every single year. So that's a whole different ballgame right there. And what I'm curious to hear is, how do you design for that scale, right? How do you design for hundreds of people that attend the same curricula? And when you look at that experience as a journey, what were the non-negotiable? What were the things like, hey, it doesn't matter that we want to scale and we want to reach more people, we need to have XYZ in our design. That's crucial for the learning aspect of the journey. So what were the non-negotiable, and where were the things where you kind of had to, I don't want to say compromise, but maybe had to, you know, close an eye, bend a bit, and be like, okay, fine, I get it. We need to grow, so we have to compromise on certain things. So what can you tell me about that, Stefan?
Ooh, yeah, good question. I think it's a big challenge if you go to scale your learning journey or learning design, because yeah, as with designing applications, you lose sight of what is happening between you and the learner. So you're kind of guessing more, you have more variety in your audiences. So you're going to see a lot of also variations in the way people experience that. So yeah, I would say that's one thing I learned is like you have to take a different approach to also reading feedback or like listening to the learner, because yeah, you have to wait, be a little bit more patient. And if you do a more in-person cohort with a smaller group, then you can sense everything, you can act on everything in the moment, you can improvise, and that's something you cannot do. So there's a lot more anticipation going into designing a learning journey at scale. And I think, yeah, what in that sense is for me, or was for us non-negotiable, is just the core principles that everybody needs to understand need to be presented in an as engaging as possible way, so that no matter what audience comes in, they would say, this is engaging, this takes me along, it's clear, and I know the essentials. And then on top of that, having a sense of curated resource from the industry, so getting people to also go outside of the learning journey and like see what's out there, because that's hard to push people to do when you're when you're letting them go through like a LMS or something like that. And then I think just having exercises that are downloadable, that they can take with them, and that are actually applicable to them. I think those are 3 elements that were non-negotiable. But then where I lost sight was, some forms of tracking are not available for exercises. You cannot do grading for everything or have like some sort of coaching in place for everyone at all times. That's something we definitely had to let go of, is like that in-person contact, and some forms of tracking or features we had to let go of. So still trying to get them back, but it's those are some things we lost along the way for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you on that. I think for Design Lab, I mean, what's non-negotiable for us, and interestingly, we actually do launch our students in cohorts. So it's not, even though it is online, it's not just like sign up at any moment, partially because the matching for pairing with a mentor would be a nightmare. If I had to do that ad hoc all the time. I'll be real with you. That was my job before.
That stays between us. It's not recorded. It's not going on YouTube.
This isn't
not everyone will be able to.
Who signed up. This is fine. It's just me and my 53 best friends. But yeah, so for us, as we scaled and grew, I mean, the biggest thing for us is, interestingly, actually, it is that community. I keep coming back to that. And like really the heart of the way that Design Lab shows up is through empathy and really caring about what like our students and our mentors are trying to accomplish, because we do have this whole other set of community, these people who want to give back and in their own way are growing, right? And giving to their journey because they're upskilling in their own way, right? Teaching designers and learning how to lead. So that is like the non-negotiable piece, right? Is that there has to be heart and there has to be empathy for this journey, because that is product design, right? Is empathizing with our users, empathizing with what they're going through. How are they showing up in this? And it is hard to strike that balance, right? When you lead with empathy, one of the things that we also try to hold to, it's always a practice, but is radical candor at Design Lab. So, that direct and kind can exist together. But for our students, that's always been the biggest piece, is like, how does this feel like your journey, and that we're showing up for it as much as possible? So how do we create a structure that allows for that? I mean, I would say some of the things that as you scale that have to like take a back seat are, where do you have to like, pull a third party content, lease that for your growth, right? Which thankfully, actually, recently we were able to overhaul everything, and nothing is, it's all us now. But there's also room for that, right? Where like looking at third parties and looking at and listening to what other people have to say, there are certain points in the journey, especially in like career services, where they're like, please, I need to hear from another voice, because I need a voice that maybe sounds more like my voice as I look for that job. But yeah, I think that was maybe the biggest compromise along the way, in order to make sure that the journey was right and felt like it was meeting the student needs as we grow. Look at Stefan getting in the queue.
Stefan's just playing around. See, he's like touching all the buttons. That's awesome.
I did have a question though, yeah.
Hey.
Whenever you're ready.
Stefan's a rogue panelist.
Yeah. We like that type of panelists around here. It's like, go ahead. If you have a question for Jessica, Stefan, go ahead, ask your question.
All the features here. This is such an awesome tool. Why not? Question for the I think community is super powerful. I think especially for people who look to change their career, learning something in isolation is like can be very demotivating, as like you lack that support system. But I also see that you have your classic community stats where there's like percentage lurkers, there's people who love to stay in the background, and like I'm curious to see like how do you pull people to the forefront also, if even though they might have different styles, like how's that part of your learning journey?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. And actually one I was thinking about before the call, which is actually that I think we don't force anybody into a particular box. We provide enough opportunities. And when we're sending people through, we do have a structure that says, hey, if you're going to be successful, here's what we expect. And those things that we've outlined are, it's not that it's not tough, because changing your job, like changing careers, is tough. Like you have to be ready to put that work in, right? And the hours into doing this. But there are things that we believe, like, hey, if you do this thing, you're going to be more likely on the other side to land that role. So I think, for at least the way I believe, because I actually have gone through the Design Lab Bootcamp as well. So firsthand experience going through it too. The ultimate user experience research. But it's about providing enough opportunities that meet students where they're at. So, right, you've got those one-on-one moments for people who need that. We have a stellar customer experience team who specialize in different facets of our business and can jump in and help those students where and when they need it, or mentors where and when they need it based on that. We have a mentorship team internally that helps those folks when they're seeing students struggle, when they're curious about, like, hey, I've never encountered this before. How do I even move forward to support my students here? But then within the community, there's some moments, right? If you are a lurker, you've just got Discord where you can just jump in and watch and see, or sign up for somebody's like research opportunity that, again, is more of that one-on-one, easier, more comfortable for some people. Or the group sessions. We have group sessions at every stage and in every course. So they focus on those, but we also have lots of like community events where you can just come and listen to another student speak about their journey. I was just talking to Anna Marie about that. So I think for me, it is about providing enough of those community and one-to-one connection points, because that is what we need, right? As people, like, it's great to have async, but connection is ultimately why we show up here as humans, right? That's why we're here today, because we want to connect. So I'm curious, does that resonate with you at all? Like, what? Yeah. How does Growth Tribe go about stuff or think about stuff like that?
I think we've taken as I mentioned before, like this was not part of the non-negotiable list, and we are definitely a few steps back on community compared to where we were. But yeah, also doing a bit of study, a few studies with the team on like finding out what people really need to trigger some more engagement. And I think, we talk about this topic of psychological safety a lot, and just expecting anyone to come into async or whatever kind of community and say, what up, here's my work, let's go, is not going to happen. So yeah, to create like a good example through teachers or other students, I think what you mentioned doesn't have to be at scale, but can be like very simple, examples. And then, I think the one-on-one moments, if you also thinking about your own professional experience, like you need one professional you really connect with to feel supported. And I think that's something I would, I'm still looking to figure out, is like how to make like at least one meaningful connection in like a community of people like helping each other out. That's already, a sense of community, I guess.
Yeah, you said something though that resonated with me, which is I think probably both of our approach, because I know you have a UX background as well, is like when we're doing any of these courses or any of these community-based events, it is all about like test it, see how it goes, see how it lands with the users, get their feedback, and then adjust or, plow forward if it felt really good, make it bigger, right? So, I mean, I know for us, everything that we've rolled out has started small, started with just a test case. Just as a couple opportunities to see. Oh, I'm very curious about Harish's question.
Ooh,
yeah.
Stephanie
I'd
brought
like
it
to
up.
a quick pause here and invite everyone to share your questions in the chat so we can pin and surface them for our speakers. Otherwise, I just go on with my list, and I would very much like to see what insights and what questions has the conversation triggered for everyone so far. So Harsh says, and I don't know, do you want to come off mute and ask your question, Harsh? That's also possible.
Sure. Hi,
Yes.
Stefan and Jessica. Really nice to be here. My question was mainly, I think, regarding Stefan's point around just psychological safety, right? in a smaller cohort-based course, I think it's far easier to create that connect and that bond. But as you start having larger cohorts, which I think both of you are quite experienced with, how do you manage to retain that psychological safety and the human connect? Because as we scale the attention, as you mentioned, Stefan, the one-on-one coaching, mentoring is very hard to do. So how do you still create that space and that safe space for people to come up and be vulnerable, share their opinions, whatnot, right? So yeah, I would love to hear your perspectives on what's worked what.
Very nice.
you.
Yeah, I think like here, also curious about Jessica's approach, but I think you can try to scale it. So there's some best practices that also apply for organizations, setting the right example, kind of building it up over time by like creating a little bit more trust through little interactions. So within a community can be layer the interactions, and you can also make certain things anonymous or let someone else go first. So there's like a few of those that are also described in, I think, The Fearless Organization is the book that covers everything or organization design wise, but that also applies to learning, I think, in this case, when setting up a learning program. And then where it becomes difficult is that people might come from a certain background or a culture or in a certain company where they don't have that psychological safety. So it's not very common that you're able to solve this right away. So actually collecting some of that feedback around like what stops you from interacting and trying to empathize with them is probably the next best step to find out like what makes people tick. And to be honest, I haven't like really gotten to that point because we are just putting in just adapting the best practices at the moment. So yeah, maybe we can go on this journey together.
Yeah.
Invitation.
I think it's tough though. Like I think it's a constant journey. And from our end, I think or what I believe is it starts from like the very first touch point, right? So that's how are you, I mean, it may sound silly, but how are you creating safety even in your website? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel usable? Does it feel approachable and engaging? Does it feel like it has your tone? And then when they reach out to you, what's that? So like with Design Lab, they target admissions reps, right? That's who gets them into that first course. Those people, because it is people, right? Like again, not a robot, not an email. Like how are they, and even in the email, how are they feeling personalized? How are they showing up as their true selves? And we create that space for that of like, be transparent, be candid. Yes, we have something that is for sale, but it may not be the right thing for you to buy. And like, let's be honest about that. So like, is this the right journey for you? Is this like the right place for you to be? And I think setting that foundation early on is super crucial to psychological safety. Is like immediately starting with, does this feel warm? Does this tone align with me? And Stefan, you mentioned something as well. I think that's really tough and is a part of our practicing, like, right, our unconscious biases every day is that, like, where do people show up from around the world? What are their intersectionalities, right? How do they just show up as a human? And I mean, I do think that's partially where online and remote world can help us so much more, right? Because we have that opportunity to engage with students from all over and engage with mentors from all over. And again, if you're creating that psychological safety up front, step one, interview one, like later when something comes up, hopefully they raise their hand and they feel that opportunity. Again, we have a really strong community in Discord. It was in Slack. So wherever you create it, whatever online based community allows for that, it helps for us to call each other in. It helps to create those spaces for us to call each other in and say like, hey, this is important to me, or can we show up in these ways and can we learn? And then I think the follow-on says this is important. You have to follow through so that other people see that it's going to be, again, a part of that circular system.
And something that I'd like to add here as well, so from experience with building the Butter community, I think that what Jessica just mentioned in terms of expectations, setting the right expectations in the communication of your offer from the get-go. So if if you making yourself vulnerable by showing your work, your progress, etc., if that's something that's important for the learning process and it's a crucial part of your design, communicating that upfront might help a lot with managing those expectations. And then something that worked very well for us is designing those spaces, containers, where by their name and definition are spaces that invite folks to experiment, whether that's a channel called questions, where it's allowed not to know. And that's, we call question, that's where we ask questions because we all have them. Or whether that's something that we call a facilitation sandbox, because we're all about facilitation and improving and honing the skills. So in the Butter community, we have sessions called the sandbox, and even the name in itself, it shows you that it's not about who's the experts, it's about experimenting and trying things out. So the moment you're creating those spaces, the people that are interested, and they feel much more invited to be courageous and bold and step into that spotlight, because that's what that container is for. And then there's this whole cheering about that, and also I think applauding or cheering for half-baked ideas or experiments or even failures and things that, let's cheer for the trying as much as we cheer for the success and the finish line, right? We've got a couple of great other questions in the chat. Emma, do you want to come off mute and ask the question?
Sure. I think I had two, so now I don't know which one was my
There we
first
go.
one.
Both of them. Go for it.
Okay, I think my first one was to you, Stefan, and it was in regards to the methods in which you create engagement in regards to building learning journeys at scale, and what you see as efficient ways of doing so.
Nice, quick question. And then in terms of engagement, do you mean like a learner to learning materials engagement, or also community in this case?
Oh, please answer both. I'm interested in both. So
nice. Yeah, so I think engagement with the learning journey, I think like what we do a lot is breaking everything up into super small pieces, and we constantly change moods, or we change the way we present something or what we expect from users. So because there's this attention span we deal with, we do also like constantly invite the user to change their way of thinking or approach. I think Wes Cow from Maven calls this state changes. So you go from receiving information to interacting. And I think even where we have like a video, we try to break the fourth wall. So we say constantly, suddenly we ask a question to the user or the learner, and then they're surprised, like, oh, now I have to think. Okay. So just keeping learners on their toes by changing things constantly, but not too drastically that they feel like being pulled out of a flow. That's what we're trying to do. And there's some nice, some nice learning also from social media, I would say, that are helping out right now. That's one. And then for maybe the engaging with the community, I'd say we're trying, but I wouldn't say we're as successful as Jessica. So maybe there's some tips you have in terms of calling people out, getting them to engage.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said, Stefan, about like it's creating those dynamic pieces within the journey, right? So it's not just like feels like they're moving from the next to the next to the next thing. I welcome the vulnerability. I appreciate it. Like going back to psychological safety, lead with vulnerability and it creates it for the rest of us. But yeah, it's within the content itself, it is about thinking, where are they moving from headspace to headspace, right? Like really diving in and thinking like, if I learned this, then when am I moving to this? Creating those moments of like pause. That's a huge, I mean, for a bigger course like us, I call them brain breaks. I don't know if anybody else does this, but at least for me, it's like, that like moment where your brain just needs to like, whew, I can't even think about this anymore. I'm not taking it in. Stefan, you mentioned something about this, right? Like they can cram through your course in like a week, but like, is that really the ideal learning journey? So where do you create those reflections to say, what did you learn? We asked you to read this thing, but what do you take away from it? Where do you see this example in real life? Where does this show up, or has this shown up for you? And then balancing, right, that reading with the visuals, with the practice, right? Creating and reflecting. So it's managing that balance is keeping them on their toes, right? And then for community, it helps that part of our structure is it's required, right? Because we do have something that's called the tuition reimbursement policy, where we say like, hey, if you still don't have a job X months after you've graduated and you've done everything that we believe, again, we firmly believe these are the things that you need to do in order to get that job, well, then we failed you somewhere. So let's talk about it. Because we don't put these out just because we believe that they're going to make a difference for you. And some of those are engaging with your community, because engaging with your community, going to group crits, showing up and presenting your work and getting better is crucial to getting better, right? You don't get better if you're just like, well, I think this is the better thing to do, right? Like we do need to trust our own guts at some point, that's okay. But we also have to listen to others and choose where to, and that's a part of the design thinking, where to leave, what to leave, and what to pick up as you go. So part of it is like, it's forced here. And again, now that it is a part of their community and their journey, they expect it. They want it. They like to come to some of those smaller events and share their work and get that feedback. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think now you sort of made the segue into my second question, which was, without even knowing. But it was about, so in the learning journey, what is it that you're seeing with your learners that there's sort of their number one expectation that they want from you in that learning journey, and that you can also see, oh, it impacts the success of what it is that you do?
I'll jump in. I feel like, Stefan, you've been in the hot seat. Answer first for a hot second here. I think what they want is what we all inherently want, right? Is to feel seen and valued for like how we want to show up, right? Like I want to feel seen as Jessica, as like in my knowledge, in my skills, in my what I'm good at and what I want to do with my career. So that is what like they like in their like little dinosaur brains want. And then of course it's thinking about like, okay, but how does this program meet that, right? And so for us, it is about right now that career journey. And then again, in the newer course, it's about how do I keep going on this journey, right? How do I keep showing up in this journey? How do I do it successfully? How do I know that I can? How do I overcome the imposter syndrome? I mean, I feel like the theme really keeps coming back to that psychological safety, right? How do I know that I can do this and have the support to do that? And that's where all of those pieces, right, come together. So like, I hope I may have lost the thread, but I hope I came back to that question. Stefan, what do you think? I'm curious where you feel about that.
Yeah, I think like learners' expectations is something we actually ask people at the beginning of a course as well. And we also ask them, since it's more related to upskilling, so they expect this, we think they expect this to be used in their daily work right away. So when they learn a module, they think I can go off with this and do something better. That's what we think. But then we also ask people like at the beginning of the course, what like this is the outcome of the course, but what did you actually think the main purpose of this course was? And we also often like see that people just feel left behind. So they might have been in conversations where, and this comes back to what you said as well, like feeling heard or feeling like they're performing or being good, like having a sense of mastery and recognition in that sense. And we do see that sometimes a trigger for like following a course for us as well, where they might have been in a conversation where someone said something about data and they're like, I don't know anything about this topic, and I feel a little bit stupid being in this conversation. So, or being in the field of marketing, but then seeing all these new platforms pop up, everyone jumping on TikTok, and then being like, oh, I don't even know where to start. I feel I feel lost a bit. So that's often a trigger. And then we usually think like, well, they just want a way to improve their budgeting or run better ads, but that's actually a few steps further. So sometimes they're a little bit they have a different need, and we're trying to just ask them that at the beginning of the course, and then also how urgent it is for them to apply these skills. So we ask for urgency. So if you would, do you have to apply this tomorrow? Is it crucial to your work? Like in that sense, would you potentially feel worried about your job, or is it a nice to have? Or are you just trying to like look around, see what you want to learn next? And we do see different segments arising from that as well. So it's an interesting notion, this like the self-perception of like how skilled people are, how they feel recognition is gained. Yeah.
Well, can't wait to
Thank you,
explore
guys.
Emma, thank you so much for your question. Can't wait to explore the role of AI in the next panel that we have on how do we actually get that support for this personalization based on needs, because I think that's a crucial piece of the puzzle right there. Paul, you have a question related to engagement throughout the journey, right? Because we're designing longer journey. Was your questions answered already? Would you like to add something here? Ask the questions. Should we surface this again? Because I know that Jessica and Stefan tackled this a little bit. If you can come off mute, let us know.
Yep, see if I can get my welcome working. There we go. Yeah, so I think you guys covered a lot of it. Just a slight kind of change to that is I think there's sometimes can be a difference in longer journeys between just engagement, as in doing the tasks, and actual motivation, where they're bringing their own enthusiasm to the learning. Do you guys have any particular tools or things that you consider when you're building these journeys to try and keep people bringing their own excitement, as much as you enjoy giving the sessions? Have you found anything really useful to generate that kind of enthusiasm on a long journey? I know that's a big question.
I'll jump in. It's a difficult
We need
one.
a session just for this question.
I know. I was like,
Well,
candidates, it's really tough. It's really tough.
We've got 3 minutes.
I know. I'm like, it is really tough, and I don't think I can answer it fully. I mean, I think in a way we have answered it. It's trying to create those dynamic moments, right, for them, and introducing different pieces, and really also when you're thinking about the longer journey, like what is crucial to this longer journey? What's extra? What's the purpose here? And does it still align for you? But yeah, I don't think I have enough. I can't get it all in 3 minutes for sure. It's a tough one. LinkedIn me, we can chat.
I can maybe pull something you mentioned before, because what I think often, also looking at how people maybe progress throughout their career is like at some point, if you get a little bit stuck in like doing your work and you're not sure where to move, bringing in an external point of view, in this case could be a mentor, or just like someone with a very admirable position or expertise, to provide a different perspective to what they're doing at that moment in time, or in the learning journey, actually asking them to go out and find that kind of perspective themselves is sometimes what helps them break out of the day-to-day, even with a learning journey. Oh, another lesson, another module, another thing. But that outside perspective sometimes helps them zoom out a bit more, which you can design into the journey. I think that's what you do, right, Jessica?
Yep. And sometimes switching it up, that perspective, right? Because they do get matched with like that mentor, and sometimes mixing that up partway through can be helpful as like a remotivator. Again, it's how do you change the scenery, either physically or like mentally change the scenery.
And something that surfaced for me an insight as I was hearing both of you talk is this, of course, variation between the views, and do we go like we take a bird's view and then we go into the depth and so on. I think reflection plays a crucial role in that engagement part, and coupled with reflection on your progress so far, how do we help participants track and see and observe their own progress? Because observing my own progress during that time span can be a massive motivator for me. Like, I'm getting better at this. So how do we help them put into place those moments for them to look back and be like, where was I a month ago? Where am I now? Okay, where am I going next? And keep on going back. I think that's almost where in competition, it's a letterboard with ourselves. We're in competition with ourselves, and we do want to get, as humans, we're wired to want to get better and to want to improve. And that, I think that's very engaging and very motivating. So that reflection is really important. And I think as learning designers, talking for myself, we often forget about that. It's all about the content. You need the content, you need to apply. Okay, but where's the feedback? Where's the reflection? Where's the looking back at where I was and where I am? So I'd add that to the mix. Paul, how's that for a quick?
Yeah. I think for 3 minutes, yeah, really insightful. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. All right, we're surfacing one, and we're doing this a rapid fire question from Ant. Ant, do you want to come off mute and share your question? If you're still with us.
Yes, hopefully you can still hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you did one thing I've always come across with a lot of my work with learning journeys and stuff is, how do you accurately assess the need to go and get an external either vendor or someone to assist with your learning journey? Because I know a lot of people may be starting these processes from new. They may get to a point and go, well, I don't know how to go further with that, or this is very specialized. So how do you go about finding those vendors or external sources, and what was the process of doing it?
Good question.
So I'm going to speak kind of high level because I wasn't the one who did it. But for us, it's going to be more about, I think in a way you kind of answered it, right? Who do you already have? What's the expertise in the room? You start there with your, like, this is OG content, right? Like, because I know this, I have an opinion and I can speak to it with clarity and confidence that it's accurate and true. And then from there, it is starting with who are your, well, a couple things. One, where is the foundational, like, where did you, like, for us, UX come from? Where did the building blocks start? Who are the subject matter experts? Finding other, like, writers and things like that. It's always good to go, LinkedIn it doesn't hurt, but, like, thinking about our students too, like, where are they at? Like, who is your primary target? Are they on TikTok? Who are they listening to? I mean, I get my students, they're like, this TikTok person's great. Like, okay, let me talk to him. Let's see if they'll talk to me. So starting with what do you have in your back pocket? What do you know? And then only reaching out for the stuff that you need because it's important to the journey, but you're not the subject matter expert on it. So finding those resources there, and then keeping top of mind, what are the intersectionalities of it, right? Like, where are different voices? How are different people going to experience this? If they come from this part of the world, if they show up in the world in this way. So it's what do I have? What's crucial, but I need somebody for, and then how do I make sure that this meets more voices in the room and not just coming from one tone or one purpose? Hopefully that was a little helpful.
Very nice. Like it,
Thank you,
especially like that idea of, like, tapping into people's networks and the things they already follow. It's often a tactic that works very well for digital marketing or content marketing. So why not apply some of those ideas for learning as well? And I think that's also what we do, is just when it comes to providing that outside perspective, it's interesting to ask experts or the audience, like, hey, who's inspiring you on this topic, or who's giving a perspective that is unique to them. And then also that's something you cannot just, like, replicate and own. So yeah, you have to use their content as well if it's unique and if it's their own. So that would be the big value add. And then you're kind of going beyond just, like, using third-party content just because it explains the concept, which is what we can all find on YouTube as well.
And on that note, thank you so much, Stefan and Jessica. Indra, I saw your question in the chat. We're going to surface back that question with the hosts and get back to you asynchronously. We're moving to the other room where we got another fireside chat and we talk about the future of learning, folks. So I hope to see some of your faces there. Jessica and Stefan, thank you so much for all your great food for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have
Have a
fun,
great
everyone.
day.
Bye.